You're listening to Head Voice, bringing you inside the minds of singers and sound creators who are redefining what it means to make music with the voice. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Evan, and we are back with another episode, this time featuring the immensely talented Amyna Love. She's a Chicago-based vocalist and songwriter whose a cappella videos have been blowing up on social media.
We talked about the inspiration and process behind those videos, the ethos and narrative behind her artistry, and why her motto is all music all the time.
Very quick announcement before we get into the episode. Anthony is spearheading a new video series called Voice-Led over on our YouTube channel. In the first installment, he broke down the Nor'easters version of Creeks with Elliot Von Wendt, and we highly encourage you to check that out if you're interested in vocal ranging at all.
But without further ado, here's Amyna Love.
Hello, welcome to another week of Head Voice. We are joined this week by Amyna Love. Thank you for joining us, Amyna.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're super happy to have you on. We usually like to start at the beginning, and seeing as we haven't found that much on you online, we'd love to just go through kind of your childhood, where you were born and raised, and what your kind of musical upbringing was in your family.
Well, I was born in Chicago. I moved away after high school and spent basically the next 10 or 11 years between Florida and Atlanta. Mm-hmm. In between that time, my parents are jazz musicians, so that was my foundation. Cool. And I got introduced to classical music in 8th grade. My mentor, who I'm actually replacing right now at my current job.
Oh, cool. Oh,
cool. But yeah, so I went from there doing, very simple 8th grade level arias. Mm-hmm. And I auditioned in high school for the concert choir and made it, me and one other freshman. And that was pretty much my life for the next 8 years. Concert choir was just my thing. So singing in groups of people was something that I just really, really enjoyed. And once I graduated, there was no place for that for me. So I started singing with myself.
were you one of those people that was singing as soon as before you could talk and stuff like that?
Yeah, that music is currently a very integral part of my family. Everybody does something artistic. So I always tell people that I've been singing since I was 2 because that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. And you mentioned that your parents are jazz musicians. Mm-hmm. What sort of influences were around the household while you were growing up?
Well, my mother is a vocalist, and in addition to the basics, the Ella Fitzgeralds, the Sarah Vaughns, she really loved, there was a mix. That's the cool thing about growing up where I grew up, is that my parents are very into all-inclusive culture. So we listen to a lot of world music, a lot of gospel, a lot of R&B and the Motown stuff. And I had brothers, so of course there was plenty of 90s rap, happening at the time. So it gave me a very well-rounded musical palette.
Mm-hmm. Was Chicago a big city for jazz? Forgive me if I'm being...
Yes, actually. It is currently a really big city for jazz. One of the many things that Chicago is known for. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does your dad play?
He plays drums.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
And he also sings, too. He's really good, but he's so shy about it. It's
as drummers thing. Are, yeah.
You can feature him on your Instagram.
Yeah.
When did they get you, or when did you start playing instruments?
I have dabbled in many instruments for very short periods of time since I was a child. I started out in piano. Wasn't very fond of my piano teacher's teaching style. Stopped doing that. I learned this Ghanaian flute called the atentemben.
Cool.
I'm actually still pretty decent at that, but I don't really do it anymore. I started learning trombone when I was in college. That was a an ex-boyfriend situation. You know, like the boyfriend plays trombones, now you want to play trombone. Anyway, we broke up and I quit.
Case. Like, I think most people just be like, you play trombone and I'll be over here.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's just a me thing. But,
it's cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah. And after I graduated, I finally came across this artist named Leanne LaHavas. And she became like my Beyonce. And at that point, I had to learn how to play guitar. So I learned basically via YouTube. And her videos and tutorials and things like that. So that's my primary instrument now is guitar.
Gotcha. I guess just backtracking a tiny bit. So we read online that you said at one point that when you were a kid, you got called to sing in a jingle for Hallmark.
Yes. Oh, I'm so salty about that to this day. Because, I mean, but that was my mother said that was how we knew you were supposed to be an artist. Because they brought me in and I'm like 6 or something like that. And there's this other girl who's singing the part and they wanted me to sing what she was singing as she was singing it. And for some reason, I don't know what it was. I guess I just thought that was weak and decided to sing harmony with the girl. And they're like, no, that's not what we... And now I'm 6, okay, singing harmony, which is hilarious. But I wouldn't sing in unison. So they were like, okay, great. Don't call us, we'll call you. And that was pretty much it. Just like, you know, I guess this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And I get... It's weird because I get... signs like that all the time. Like, this is not your path. This is not your path. So, I mean...
Well, what after that, like, kind of... Because I could imagine that would be, like, demoralizing as a 6-year-old. Like, what got you back on, you know, inspired to do stuff after that?
I mean, nothing really. It was just the one thing that brought me the most joy. So I wasn't going to stop doing it just because that person didn't like the way I did it, you know? But I have auditioned for American Idol twice, and I have also auditioned for The Voice. And all 3 times, I got the, we can tell you're an artist, but we don't think you're right for this show. And it's like, well, okay, thanks, I guess. You know, so I've moved past that, and I'm trying to really embrace doing me, which is not easy.
Well, I think just to go off that too, we have kind of read that your motto is all music all the time, and just hearing you talk about how you were raised in that environment where your parents were very active musicians and you kind of were playing with different instruments as you grew up. It's clearly an integral part of you and of your lifestyle. So when you were in high school where you're like, this is the thing that I want to do, did you know at that point? Because you went to college for music ed. So where did that kind of, what was your mind at for that?
That was quite the journey. Of course, when I got into high school, it was like, for me, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was just kind of happy to be in concert choir.
Yeah.
But as time went on, you kind of get these influences from the people around you. At the time, my sister was a biology graduate, my older sister, and she had just married a civil engineer. And at that point, everybody was like, oh, engineer, because I loved math. I was really good at math. And people equated that to, you should be an engineer.
Yeah.
And as time went on, it's like, okay, well, I guess that's cool. So I did my best to start getting more excited about science. I hate science, which is, you know, made it difficult to be an engineer. But yeah, but, you know, in the midst of taking the AP science courses and, you know, going to engineering summer camps and things like that, I was always doing something musical year round, whether it was concert choir or a summer program, Gallery 37, or, you know, singing with friends, things like that. I was always doing something musical. And that is what happened when I went to college. I was in concert choir, but I was an engineering major. So I had to split my time between the things that I loved and the things that I thought I should be doing. And music won. You know, I got to my very fourth year of not my very last year, the fourth year of engineering. And at that point, now, mind you, I cry when I get B's because I'm not, you know, I'm a scholar. Okay. But the first semester, at the end of the first semester of my fourth year, I was failing basically everything but concert choir. Mm-hmm. And I had to like have a moment with myself, like, is this really what you want to do? You stop going to class. You don't really like these people. You're not going to spend days on end at the engineering school like everybody else does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you'll stay up till 6 a.m. going over concert choir music. Maybe you should change your major. So it took me a minute. I had switched to jazz studies first because I was also in the vocalist for the jazz band. And I soon realized that was a dead-end major, according to the people around me. But a new major opened up, music industry. Mm-hmm. It was a nice blend of music production, music performance, and music theory, which were, you know, three things that I was interested in. So when I graduated, it allowed me to still secure a job as a music teacher with the right certification without having to go through everything that music education teachers actually did.
Yeah.
Because that's quite the process.
Yeah. You'd mentioned, so for those singing shows, was that more a high school thing or was that something that you were doing in college?
We did a couple shows in college. They used to have this, I went to school in Florida, in Tallahassee, Florida. So they used to have this show called The Tally Show that was basically a city showcase. And because it's weird, it makes me sound like a diva, but they pretty much created the show to make me a feature. So every show I performed, they put me in the middle of the show, and that was just something we did regularly once a month. And then, of course, you know, you perform with concert choir. I performed with jazz band, and I'm also a part of a non-Pan-Held Greek organization called Sigma Alpha Iota. And we did showcases throughout the year as well. So, I had plenty of opportunities in college to hone my skills.
So when during this timeline were the American Idol voice audition things?
Both of the American Idol auditions were in college.
Okay.
One of my voice professors had a connect and was able to move me to the front. And I don't know, maybe it's just something about auditions, but that was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. Because I'm thinking it's going to be like like they show on TV. You're in a room and it's just you and the judges.
Right.
But that's not how it was. It was a long line of different judges sitting at tables by themselves. And then you'd have a line of 4 or 5 people. And he'd just say, go, one by one. You're singing next to these other people. And it was nerve-wracking because you can hear, you know, the next group over singing and the next, you know, and it was overwhelming for me. I did my best, I thought.
Yeah.
But, you know, I got that whole, you know, we can tell you're an artist, but I don't know if you're really right for the show.
Well, I mean, they're obviously like being like weirdly backhanded with the way that they're saying it, but it's like, I feel like their priorities are not like the people the people competing or really like the artist coming on the show is like, you know, trying to find the kooky person and like the person like trying to hit the high note every 5 minutes or whatever. And it's just like, I don't know. That's not necessarily like, I think that's clear. It's clear in your music that's like not, the thing is just like to be this flashy thing, which like there's nothing wrong with those shows. And like a lot of great singers are on those shows, but I feel like they're looking for a very particular,
very specific
brand
things.
thing.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that's fine. I realized after the very last audition, The Voice, which I actually auditioned for last year, that they're looking for singers that have similar abilities so that it makes for a more interesting show.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, they're also basing it on how you look. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Or will you be easy to create a brand around? You kind of realize, okay, I'm just not what they're looking for. Doesn't necessarily mean that nobody's going to be looking for what I can do, you know?
Right.
Right.
So, but I know that the show thing is not for me.
Yeah. Well, if we turn around kind of what those judges are saying to you or whatever, about what it means to be an artist, like what for you does it mean to like be an artist? Like what is it, what creatively is the thing that like gets you going?
Being an artist really is about being vulnerable to me, because that really is what art is, in my opinion. Is it's your vulnerabilities. It's you sharing the pieces of you that are difficult to express otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, especially for me. Like, I don't have many conversations with people about what's happening in my life. You know, I'm extremely emotional, and sometimes I don't feel like people want to hear, that they want to deal with, you know, face to face what I have going on. So
Yeah.
it's simpler for me and a little more freeing for me to write it in a song, because it's like, at that point, it's out there. I've done it. I've released that energy.
Yeah.
Expressing, being free to express yourself,
Right.
you know, regardless of what the medium is.
And as for like your particular sound and your particular style, you obviously are utilizing your voice in really unique ways, and that's how Evan originally found you, through a friend, one of your a cappella videos on Instagram. So, and we've gone through all those videos and they're really awesome. But like, what is it about harmony that you are so drawn to?
I don't know. It's something about the way that those frequencies feel when they're properly aligned. It's healing for me. It's healing. And it's just, you know, it's something that I really, really enjoy doing process-wise. Seeing how, you know, moving one note a half step up changes the chord, you know, changes the color of the sound.
Yeah.
How, you know, a minor song would make somebody feel as opposed to a major song. Like, I don't know, feelings.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm gonna jump around, and that's all we're doing is jumping around in this. But so after you finish college, did you know that you were gonna come back to Chicago?
No, I had planned to never do that. The one thing that I said actually when I left for college was that this is the last time I'll ever live here.
Wow.
And I said, you know, always, I'm never moving back to Chicago. I hate Chicago. I'll never be in Chicago ever again. And it still exists. There are just things about the city that are not warm enough for me. I mean, not just talking about the weather, obviously, that's a big thing. But living in Atlanta and Florida, people are so warm. They're so kind and so, you know, genuinely loving. You walk by somebody on the street and they smile and say hello to you. Like, here that doesn't happen. If you look at somebody too long, something could possibly happen. You know, they can think you want to fight them or that you're about to steal something from them. My phone just got stolen literally a week ago. I was getting off the bus, walking back to work, and this kid ran behind me and snatched my phone right out my hand and kept it moving, just ran away. And those are the kind of things that happen. It's like, here, there is this cloud of like desperation, you know, people, especially in the area that I live, everybody just, they're so desolate, and it's, I don't know, it drains my energy.
Yeah.
So
did you come back to was there a job offered to
yes,
teach back here?
the mentor that actually was my major influence in pursuing music, she was my music teacher. She was my first music teacher. And she passed a couple years ago while I was in Atlanta. And the school, people from the school called me like, yeah, you know, we've been going through all the options and you're really the only person that can replace her. And I just, because of what she's given to me, I felt it my duty to do my best to fill her shoes. So despite how I felt about moving back home, I did it, you know, because I knew that was the best thing. And to be totally honest, really awesome things have come from me being here. So I'm glad I did it. I don't know how long I'm going to stay, but I'm glad I did it.
Well, you've gotten involved at some level in the scene, in Chicago, and you have a show tomorrow as a date of recording this, and like, how do you find being an artist in that community?
It's interesting because contrary to the way I feel about the people in the city, the artists here are really nice. It doesn't seem like there's so much competition. Like in Atlanta, the artist scene is really cliquish. And if you get in with the right people, then you can find gigs and, do shows and have artist spots and things like that. But if, if somebody doesn't like you, then you're going to have a hard time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here, it doesn't really feel like that for me. A lot of the gigs that I have, a lot of the artists and musicians that I work with now, I met when I got here, because I left when I was 18, so I didn't really have any connections.
Right.
But it wasn't really hard, you know what I'm saying? They recognize your talent, you recognize their talent, we exchange numbers, and we work. So this has been very enriching. For me, artist-wise,
We've seen a couple videos of, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the Chi-brations series.
Chi-brations.
Not right whatsoever. Those are really awesome. What's it been like being a part of that particular?
Awesome, actually. Amazing, because the people that come through that platform are phenomenal. I actually was surprised to be chosen to be a part of that because the people before and after me have these really huge followings and they have so much music out there and they've been performing all over Chicago. So just to even be mentioned among, those artists, that was humbling for me. A lot to be gained from being involved with them.
Yeah.
And so a way that I'm finding a lot of artists now is like through Instagram, honestly, and I know that we've mentioned yours a few times, but I feel like just in the past few months, like your videos have really been blowing up and like and you've been doing more and more of those, like and you've been doing that for a while. I think your first one was in like 2013 or something, but like lately you've been like ramping them up and they are great, and I'll probably like lay some underneath right now for you to hear. But was there kind of motivation on any level to do those to like to just get more people to hear you, or who just like
it started with the Lazy video. That was me messing around, literally. I was supposed to go to the gym and I was supposed to meet my friend there. And I decided I didn't feel like going. And I called him and told him, like, hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to stay at home and watch Netflix and popcorn. And he's like, man, you better get up. You're so lazy. And I'm like, now that is a true statement. And while I was walking around the house, I was just kind of singing to myself, lazy, lazy, lazy. And I'm like, oh, that would be a cool video. Kiki. And I made one, like, thinking it would just be funny or whatever. And I wake up and it's like thousands of views, and I've never gotten thousands of views on anything before. So after getting the response for that, a friend of mine was like, yeah, you need to put out some consistent content, because that's just something I didn't do. I might post on Instagram once every 2 weeks. But I'm like, okay, consistently what? Well, why don't you just do what you did with the Lazy video? Okay. So I decided to go ahead and just try it, and the response has been really overwhelming. So staying consistent is hard, but it's something that I need to get used to doing. So I'm glad that, I was pushed to make that happen.
Yeah. There's a fun irony in that it was like the lazy video that kicked off you being super productive and doing all these other ones after it.
Exactly.
And you're posting those every Friday now, right?
Yes. Sometimes they end up happening on Saturday. The one before this past Friday ended up happening on Monday, but
we're counting it.
Yeah.
And it's great too. So.
Yeah.
So you'd mentioned that you had found Leon LaHavis at one point, and that was a big influence for you. When you were thinking about arranging something vocally, is there anybody consciously or subconsciously that you're kind of drawing influence from?
Well, I guess it depends on what I'm listening to at the moment. I am actually working on an EP currently,
awesome.
so there are a couple of influences there. Leon LaHavis is definitely a big one. There's a nice amount of Sheila E. Prince. I love Paramore. So there's
was
a
not
little of that
expecting
in
that.
there. Some Hiatus Coyote, a little Dragon. And then I have this one really out of character track where I'm like rapping. Technically, that would be like a Nicki Minaj, No Name Gypsy kind of mix. But I listen to a lot of stuff, a lot of different stuff. I love to put my playlist on shuffle because I may get, some Ty Dolla $ign 1 second and some Ella Fitzgerald the next, which is...
And some Crush the next.
Right.
After that.
right. All of the good stuff in between. So, yeah, I mean... I am still working on trying to develop my own sound. People keep asking me, what's your genre? I really have no idea. I don't know. But I almost am starting to feel like that's not necessary.
Yeah.
I used to tell people that I was an alternative artist. It just means, whatever I want it to mean.
Right. And because you're consistently posting these videos now, it kind of gives you the opportunity to explore different genres anyway. I was going to ask, so you've obviously put out a ton of good videos, and I'm particularly obsessed with the Can't Hold Me cover that you recently did with the Emily King one. But I'm just curious, what your process looks like for even starting these arrangements. Where do you start when you're sitting down to map something out?
Well, I listen to the song. Normally, whatever the song is that I picked it because I've been listening to it a whole lot.
Yeah.
And that one was on serious repeat.
Yeah.
For quite some time. So I guess first, when I'm listening to the song, I'm listening to the rhythm. If it's something that I can do with just a snap, or if I have to, get vocally percussive. After that, I'm listening to the bass line. And that's normally the most important thing for me, because if I can master the bass line, then I can transform the chords however I like.
Right.
So yeah, I do that first, seeing if I need to change the key, if I'm going to need to, digitally take the vocals down an octave, which I've been a little, I don't want to say insecure, but self-conscious, I guess, about altering my voice.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I always pride myself in is my voice being my voice. No auto-tune, no, pitch correction, anything like that. So the first time that I did it, I felt like I had to make a disclaimer, hey guys, this part is not me. Just don't want you to be confused. But yeah, so once I've done the whole bass line thing, then I kind of just start to play around with the harmonies. And that's one reason why I really enjoy pre-recording the vocals, because when you're doing the harmonies one by one without that, you kind of get locked into, whatever's there. Because it's a lot of work to make sure that you are singing the right part, but also doing the right choreography or making the right facial expressions. There's a lot that you have to think about at once. But when you pre-record the vocals, all you're thinking about is what it sounds like.
Right.
And if I do a small chord set, just a piece, and I'll listen to it, and if I don't like it, I'll just, copy and paste it to the very end of the track and start again, as opposed to having to start the whole thing over. Yeah, so the lead is always the last thing I do because that is the hardest part. Because I'm very nitpicky about how I want to sound and, making sure that I'm not being too busy in terms of the riffs or, whatever. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
It's funny to hear you talk about the manipulation and the pitch correction and all that stuff and feeling like weird about that because we're very familiar with a lot of contemporary acapella stuff, which like is all just like right, like it's all pitch corrected right to the center of the note, and there's like tons of like manipulation and stuff, which is like good for its own thing. But I respect that you really like work hard to make sure that it's you, because I mean like especially as an artist, I feel like it's your truth, it's like your emotion that's like the most important thing that people get out of the videos. It's not like nobody like needs to hear like a perfectly polished thing to be like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
almost more amazing if you're like, oh, I can tell that she did it, because I feel like so many people like just lip sync straight stuff now.
Yeah, and that's really what matters to me. As long as there is no misconception about what my voice sounds like, what my abilities are. Because you know how you have certain artists that sound great on their record, and then they get in front of you live, and you're like, is that the same person? I don't ever want to get that reaction from an audience. So I do the best I can to be as authentic upfront as possible.
Yeah.
I'm curious of how much, because with these, you're by necessity of the app or whatever, it's 9-10 frames to work with. When you're writing your own original material, like how much do you allow yourself to vocally layer, and how much do you want it to be focused on the lead when you're writing?
Well, it depends on what kind of song it is. For the a cappella songs that I do, I like for there to be a lot of depth. So I'll put tons and tons of parts stacked, and then I might double or triple those, because for me, like, I like songs that you can listen to over and over again, and every time you hear something new. That for me makes the experience better. The lead is the most important thing because it's the lyrics. And because I'm a writer, listening to the words is a huge part of, my artistry. Yeah. Being able to use your words to paint a picture. Yeah. And then you color that picture with whatever chords you decide to put in. Yeah.
I'm just curious, are there any videos is there a particular video that you put out in the last couple of weeks that you're especially proud of or especially excited by?
Honestly, the Lizzo video.
I was gonna say
that has to be. I put a lot of work into that one. Yeah, it was an idea actually that came to me while I was sleeping because I wanted to do a Lizzo song, and when I saw that Juice was about to drop, it was like, okay, well, let's listen to it first. Yeah, and I listened to the song and I really loved it, but I wasn't sure if that was the one I wanted to do. And I went to sleep and I heard the beginning, the way that I do the chords at the beginning, and I wanted that to be longer, but it, time. Yeah. And I kind of woke up out of my sleep like, that's it, you can do that one. So I ended up going straight to the computer at that point and just kind of laying down the harmonies I heard and then came back to it. Yeah. But it didn't get exciting for me until it was time to do the actual video. And I'm like, if there's anybody who would appreciate these different faces, these different characters, it would be her. because she's all about, you know, the freedom of being who you are and doing what you want, you know, positive body images, things of that nature. And I don't know, I felt like it would be appreciated.
Yeah.
And as I did each tile, I started to get more excited about who I was going to become next.
Yeah.
So the one that's at the far bottom where I'm in the hoodie, that was the very last one that I did.
We're like, is she smoking?
We can't forget about this one. We can't. So, yeah. And I think that's my largest viewed video right now, too.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for it and for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. We love Lizzo too, and like, so she's an inspiration, I think, for you, for us, for a lot of people. Like what would you say? Like, what are some aspirations and goals that you have that like you're working towards, if you feel comfortable in saying them out loud?
Sure. The first thing really, which I'm, you know, currently working on, is just being consistent, putting out consistent content, trying to build my brand around, you know, what I'm doing. The next goal, you know, in combination with that, is to put out some music. So I've made it a point to finish this EP. I'm not entirely sure which month it's going to come out, but it's going to be one of these months coming up. And then to put on a show where I'm the headliner, which I've never done and have always been terrified of doing. My biggest fear is to have a show and nobody shows up. And it's kept me from, you know, making things like that happen. But this year I'm doing it. We haven't put out the official flyer for it, but I'm going to be having an Unplugged concert in April 18th. At this really awesome place called the Woodlawn. And it's going to be me in all of my awkward glory.
I think people will come.
Yes, I think if we lived in that city, we would be there.
So just to we're at the end of the interview, sadly, but just to wrap up, 2 questions that we like to ask. The first one is, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what right now is exciting you in the vocal music scene, the greater music scene, music industry? Like, what are you excited by right now?
I am excited about the resurgence of live music. People getting more comfortable with the idea of bands backing people up. You know, people not being so consumed with artificial sound.
Yeah.
You know, that for me is amazing because I'm not really a, you know, beat, sing to a track kind of person. And knowing that there is a market for people who sing live with live bands, that's beautiful. It makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel like I have a place.
Yeah.
I also, I mean, just specifically, and this is unrelated to what I do as an artist, but can I just say Cardi B is killing it right now. And it's not even so much like, well, it is her specifically, but just what she's been able to do without, I don't want to say help, but without leaning on anyone, you know, specifically being able to go out there and create her career from the ground up and be really good at it and be really consistent with being good at it. You know, that's, you know, what I aspire to. So, yeah, she's dope.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then just the last question. You kind of touched on all of this, but what is on the plate for you? So you're working on an EP. What else is on the pipeline for you?
The EP, the show, and I have a single that I've been coddling for quite some time called Black Girl Magic that I'm finally going to do a music video for. that's going to be
Cool.
the release of the song will be the visual. And
Yeah.
it'll be my very first music video.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So nervous. But yeah, those 3 things just to start.
Awesome. Well, Amyna, thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to talk to you. Go follow her on Instagram. I think there's only amazing things.
Go follow and
coming.
also watch every single
Yeah,
video.
yeah. Everything we mentioned, everything else we mentioned. I think good things are coming. And we hope that you join us next week for a new episode of Head Voice.
Bet it all. What was I so afraid of? Every part of me is a vision of a portrait Mona Lisa.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Head Voice. You are now listening to Amyna's cover of Masterpiece by Jasmine Sullivan. Number 1, sorry this episode took so long to get out, but I think it was well worth it. If you haven't already been inspired to check out Amyna's page, I implore you to. I was putting together a teaser for this episode, and it's hard not to just play all the videos in full back to back.
Yeah, definitely watch them. I think my favorite is her version of Can't Hold Me by Emily King. And she goes all out in that. But yeah, I would agree with Evan. You have to check them out.
Yeah, they're so good. And we won't take too much of your time, but like I said in the intro, we have a new video series over on our YouTube channel called Voice Led. The idea is that we're kind of talking to people more in depth about the creative process than we're able to in the podcast episodes. And there's an added bonus of a visual element. You get to see faces and sheet music and stuff. And we have 2 parts of that one with Creek. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. We've got more stuff coming.
And now I have to go to work. Bye!